Warning. The following contains strong bloody violence. Boom! Strong language. Holy f***! And a bald ginger man being scared. Some spoilers.
What the hell?
And worst of all, opinions. Ridley Scott's Alien is one of the best science fiction films to grace the silver screen, and it's one of my favourite films. Blending science fiction and horror, in 1979, Alien terrified audiences with its dazzling special effects, use of tension, and not to mention the alien itself. Alien has always been a series or a franchise which has captivated me. I think I watched the original when I was like 14 or 15 years old, and yeah, it was pretty spooky. I'm not a horror guy, like, at all. I'm too much of a chicken to put myself through that sort of torture voluntarily. I actively avoid them at all costs. There's just something about them which I just can't hack. Like roller coasters. I'll never be able to get behind being terrified for upwards of 90 minutes straight, just to get bamboozled by cheap jump scares. Jesus. However, for some reason I have watched every single Alien film, and yes, that does include Alien vs Predator Requiem. But I still haven't watched Alien Romulus because I'm far too scared. But what I find interesting about myself is that I have played more than a fair few horror games over the years, which when I think about it is way worse than watching a film. And that's because in a game, instead of being a spectator when watching a film, you are the person in that situation. You must navigate the insane asylum in Outlast. You must venture into Raccoon City in Resident Evil 2. And you must enter the Sevastopol in Alien Isolation. And seeing as it's spooky season, the spookiest time of the year, I thought I'd return to a horror game I haven't played in years and torch myself once again. Alien Isolation follows Amanda Ripley, the daughter of Ellen Ripley from the original Alien films, played by the GOAT Sigourney Weaver. Set 15 years after the first film, Amanda is actively searching for her mother, as well as the answers for her disappearance. When the flight recorder of the Nostromo is discovered, which is the ship that Ellen was on, Amanda and a Weyland-Yutani team with Samuels, an android, and Taylor, a Yutani lawyer, journey to the Sevastopol and recover the flight log. However, when their arrival doesn't go as smoothly as they would have hoped, naturally, the surviving crewmates of the Sevastopol are paranoid and violent.
I'm Ripley.
Where'd you come from? Ripley?
Off station. A ship.
There's no ships here!
Turning on each other in a desperate attempt of survival. And the androids on the station, known as the Working Joe, have become radical human racists.
Oh my god.
That wasn't very nice, was it? All while a xenomorph stalks the corridors and wishes to serve Amanda up for their 129th course of human en croûte.
In many ways, the work of a critic is easy.
Amanda must then navigate the collapsing station while scavenging for supplies, looking for survivors, and avoiding detection as she tries to recover the recorder and get the frick out of there alive. Alien Isolation's story feels more like a direct sequel to the original film than its sequel Aliens, in terms of its mood, feeling more in line with the atmosphere and just sheer dread from the Alien film, rather than James Cameron's more action sci-fi sequel, and just for that, I just love it. What made Aliens so good, at least to me, was just how unique it felt, especially at the time that I watched it. You know, horror sci-fi feels like such an untapped resource in some areas, and there's just endless possibilities here to make me feel so physically uncomfortable that I have to pause and talk to the camera for a moment to ground myself back into reality. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about this game, but because I did play it years and years ago, but I remember finding this bit horrible and still finding it horrible. Oh, just need to breathe. Okay. But back to the story, and it's great. It feels very Alien, you know, it's got everything you'd expect, with a badass female protagonist in Amanda Ripley, who we see develop from a more shocked and frightened character at first to a person driven by her conviction to find answers about her mother and then to stop the alien, which, you know, reflects the events of the first film. Like Ellen in the original Alien, Amanda isn't your conventional hero. She's just an ordinary person, a average working Joe, if you will. But her conviction and drive to find answers is what makes her a character you can easily get behind. You know, her motivations are clear, and especially if you've seen the original Alien, you're like, yeah, go on, mate. You know, she's vulnerable, you know, not some macho gun-toting cowboy who's going alien hunting, which makes this game feel so grounded.
Yes. Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
You hear her quickened breath when the alien approaches, her shock at certain events, and the sort of like the gut, the lump in her throat when she sees horrifying things. But as the narrative progresses, you can feel the change in her voice and her actions, you know, when she fully realizes what she must do.
I can power up all the cores, overload them, and then initiate a reactor purge.
She's just great, you know, like, although Ellen still takes the cake for being my favorite female protagonist in fiction, full stop.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Amanda is no pushover. We play as Amanda as she attempts to navigate the various parts of the ship, restoring systems to get access to different areas and help the more friendly inhabitants avoid the alien, as well as dealing with the crazed humans, as well as finding out what the hell is going on here in the first place. So, you know, she's got a lot on her plate. The narrative itself fits so well into the Alien universe, you know, with its obvious ties to the first film, but the idea of Weyland-Yutani, his continual obsession with the xenomorph finding its way into the Sevastopol, as you piece together the mystery of why the androids have turned on the crew and the true ownership of the station. It's all just such a captivating mystery which furthers and develops the Alien universe while not retconning or feeling just completely useless until the point where it gets distracting. It's a smart and captivating narrative which keeps you invested throughout. One of the standout parts in the game is when you find out how the alien got on board in the first place, which is where Alien Isolation gets to take you back to the derelict ship of the first film, where it all started. You know, you take control of someone called Marlowe, a struggling salvage contractor looking for a big break for him and his team, leading them to the distress beacon of the ship. There's no music here, just the sound of you navigating the infrastructure of the ship with just impeccable tension being built throughout, until, in classic Alien fashion, someone wants to get a closer look at the totally non-threatening egg on the floor, just waiting for a curious human to come along and poke it. What a surprise. Finding out that Marlowe and his crew withheld the information of their encounter and new crewmates sitting inside one of their bellies, they then seek help from the station, leading the alien to find its way into a very populated contained space well suited for the xenomorph's expertise. All of this was just such a great sequence for the narrative with just some great payoff. I'd say the narrative is quite a slow burn. You don't necessarily see the alien until a good hour and a half through, maybe even slightly more, because you're introduced to Amanda and some of the supporting characters. You then get to the Sevastopol, and then you start to piece together what is going on there, and you only really see the alien. You don't actually see it. It just absolutely batters someone. But it's just It's a slow burn. The whole narrative is like that. It's brilliant. I love a slow burn film as long as there's payoff. For example, like Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite films of all time. And that is a slow film. I remember seeing it in the cinema with a couple of my friends, and they were so bored. But I was absolutely engrossed in just the atmosphere, the sound design, all of it, the visuals, everything was just perfect. And I feel like it's kind of similar here with Alien Isolation, because it does take its time to introduce things. And I don't think that's a weakness, I think that's definitely a strength, because when things do pay off, and they really do pay off, they are so much more effective. As I said before, I do really struggle with the horror genre, but I do push myself through it when I know there is a good story behind it. Although a decent bit of the horror genre is built around cheap scares and shock factor, if I hear there is a great story there, I do become interested. Which is why I played games like Outlast. I heard the narrative in that game was great, as you sort of piece together the events of the asylum and find out what happened there. Despite turning my pants a new shade of brown throughout, it's the same thing here. The thinking you've jettisoned the alien for good after Waits betrays you, to only then find out an entire colony of aliens are breeding below the ship's core in one of the most horrifically terrifying and suspenseful sequences I've ever played in a video game. Oh, fucked. To me, I feel like the building of suspense and tension is such a... It's way better than just cheap jump scares. Obviously, jump scares do come into play with a horror film or game, and you need these things as the payoff, but I much prefer a more creepy, tense, suspenseful atmosphere, because I just think it's so much harder to do. I really wouldn't have bothered with Alien Isolation when I played this a fair few years ago if I didn't think the story was going to be good and I heard it was just like a cheap jump scare thrill ride. A good story can help me suffer through the fear. And speaking of fear... The definition of fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the thought of danger. And never has fear been more personified than in the alien itself. For 75% of my playthrough, I was in a constant state of stress, wondering where the alien is. Will it hear me? Will it see me? And will it eat me? This fear of the alien is something I have rarely experienced in a single entity. So what better way to torture oneself by not letting on-screen characters deal with it in a film, but making the player have to deal with it themselves. Throughout the game, you can hear the alien crawling around in the vents, gently walking around in the claustrophobic corridors. Its subtle hisses whenever it senses prey, whenever it senses you. The alien can spot you almost instantly. It can hear your steps as you traverse the Sevastopol, but also it can learn how you avoid it. Creative Assembly thought, instead of just making Total War games for once, that just having a killing machine patrolling the space station just wasn't enough. So the mad men and women of the studio decided they wanted to allow the alien to adapt and learn about the player's tactics. In the earlier missions, the alien does the standard patrol routes. It can hear you and obviously see you, but as the game progresses, it begins to learn how you tend to move, hide, and even attack. It begins to adapt, like the perfect organism that it is.
Perfect organism.
If you hide in lockers often, it starts checking lockers more, meaning you have to hold your breath when it gives the lockers a good old sniff. And if you use the motion tracker a lot, it begins reacting to the noise, allowing it to pinpoint your location. And if you throw distractions like flares or noisemakers, it starts approaching them more cautiously or ignoring them entirely. The alien becomes less susceptible to your tricks, meaning you as the player have to adapt also. And once you notice certain things aren't working, the alien will become more persistent in its patrols. double backing on areas it may have heard you, checking vents and shadows it may have previously ignored. It'll come out to play if you enter combat with some of the other inhabitants of the station. So avoiding combat at all costs is paramount. Or you can be a sick bastard like me and use that to your advantage, aggroing humans so they fire their guns, so that the alien comes out and eats them, meaning you don't have to get your hands dirty. Could just ruin these guys by throwing a noisemaker at them. Oh.
What the hell is that?
Sorry, guys.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
But when the alien isn't around, a few more human deaths couldn't hurt.
It's high noon.
Take him out!
In a sense, the alien is unpredictable. Although there are ways to avoid it, they won't work every time. You have to continuously adapt and try new things to keep it from killing you. And that's what makes it so f***ing terrifying. You can't just use the same old tricks, you have to mix up your strategy. Besides the amazing design of the xenomorph, which is captured just so well here, the way it has been integrated into this experience makes it so the alien is always a threat to be feared, making me constantly on edge, tiptoeing around as much as possible, avoiding vents and always keeping my flamethrower ready in case it does see me. Later on in the story, about halfway through I think, you do pick up a flamethrower given to you by one of the marshals of the station, Waits. And once you get this, the hunter does in fact become the hunted. Oh shit! I've seen various arguments that when you get the flamethrower, the game does become far less scary, as you now have a way to combat the alien, instead of being all soft and squishy at all times. And honestly, I do agree to an extent. Yes, you have a way to fight back, but the threat of the alien is still always prevalent. You still have to be on your guard, and it's not like you can just march around feeding flame to it constantly. It must be used sparingly due to a lack of ammunition, and if you don't blast it soon enough, the alien can still have its fun. After cowering from the alien for so long, finding the flamethrower was like a breath of fresh air. Yet it isn't so overpowered where the game becomes significantly easier. You still have to be constantly aware of your surroundings, listening out for sound cues, or you will find yourself skewered by its tail. The tension is still there, and that can seriously be attributed to the game's incredible sound and visual design. Alien Isolation's atmosphere is nothing short of a masterpiece in visual and sound design. It has the same incredible feeling of fear and dread, while maintaining the beautiful yet worn down art style that the universe is known for. Assets look like they were ripped straight from the film, and that's because they were. As the developers at Creative Assembly studied the movie sets and their designs, and they also used 20th Century Fox's original concept art from HR Giga and just sound archives to capture the same vibe and feeling. This care and attention to detail is something that, when it comes to mind, like Rogue One, how the visual effects in Rogue One just looked so fantastic because they took the time and care to photograph these giant miniatures and then put them into the film, and it feels similar here. Everything just looks so real in the sense that it feels like it was ripped straight from the film, and as it was with Rogue One, everything looked like it was ripped straight from A New Hope. Everything from the flickering CRT monitors and the bulky keyboards, to the steam vents and dim fluorescent lighting of Ridley Scott's vision of a far future still grounded in 70s imagination. The game just looks and sounds incredible to this day. It's nearly 10 years old, and the only thing which makes you remember that are some of the faces, which Kind of looks like they had a cosmetic surgeon boom in the 2100s, but the surgeons went a little bit overboard with the Botox. And also, everyone is very sweaty. And not even at the alien bit, it was like right in the beginning, I was like, Jesus Christ, you are very, very damp. I don't know why I noticed it, but you know. Anyway, the Sevastopol itself is just a masterclass in claustrophobic level design, with its long and dark corridors, flickering lights, and shadows which make you second guess what you see. The vents, oh my god. Having seen the original film, we all know what happens to Captain Dallas, who I thought was going to be the main character, until he has a friendly face-to-face chat with the illustrious alien in one of the vents.
Hello there.
I was terrified every single time I went into them for that exact reason. God. Oh god! Oh, this has got me. This has got me good. You can constantly hear the alien crawling around, you know, the subtle creaks and cracks of the metal, and then the not so subtle thud when it's approaching. Holy fuck! But just the absolute fear I would feel when I have no choice to enter one, leading me to have to psych myself up every time, is just a credit to the design and the atmosphere of this game. As if I didn't fear the villain, if I didn't fear the alien, I'd just go in willy-nilly. All the equipment that Amanda picks up throughout the game fits the universe as well, from the revolver, which is more of a I dare you to try and kill the alien tool, and the bulky shotgun, which makes short work of androids which want to tell you about the station security protocols. I prefer not to. While exploring, or more likely crawling and hiding, you salvage containers looking for parts to make equipment to either deter or distract foes. From noisemakers, which I mentioned, and EMP mines, to more lethal pipe bombs and molotovs. There's plenty of ways to navigate the station, and plenty of tools to assist you with your journey. Just don't expect to be able to kill the alien because, you know, you can't. Die! Also, the way you interact with your surroundings just increases this tension as well. Slight panic. So there's these save points, which are the only way you can save unless there's autosaves, which are usually at the beginning and the end of a mission. And these save points, they take time to process. You like put your punch card in, and you have to wait 3 seconds, and it lets you know if hostiles are nearby. And also, because the soundscape is just so masterfully done, you can hear if the alien is dotted around. And there were several times when I put my punch card in, and then I heard the and I was like, oh fuck, I need to get the hell out of there. I'm so fucked. Yep. And also, like, when you unlock certain pieces of equipment, there's like an ion torch, a sort of like clamp which you use to break open things. They make noise, and the alien is attracted, well, and the androids as well, are attracted to that noise. So you have to be very, very careful and almost study which ways they're going and make sure they're not around in order to interact with the world and open up new pathways, just to make sure that they don't come and skewer you from behind. You know, it's just that constant development of suspense and tension is just done so well here. Every aspect of the game works towards this single goal, and it just achieves it so well. The game sounds just as good as it looks. You can constantly hear metal groaning, vents hissing as they open and close, power surges crackling, and the distant clanks which you have your paranoia going through the motions. The worst thing about the alien is that you can usually hear it before you see it, leading to this constant fear. You know, could that hiss be the vent opening, or is the alien nearby, eyeing up their next course? And when being combined with a great and uncomfortable score to back it all up, fading in and out in more tense situations, you're just constantly on edge. But the score does allow for moments of silence too, and these tend to be the worst parts, as you feel, wait for it, isolated. There is no soft score keeping you company, no like ambiance. No humans to talk to, just the sounds of the crumbling ship and the feeling of the alien's presence creeping up your spine. Although the game's visuals, sound, and threat are just absolutely incredible, the game isn't perfect. And if you remember, I mentioned I was in a constant state of stress for 75% of the playthrough. It's time to discuss that other 25%. So my main issue with Alien Isolation doesn't actually have anything to do with its pacing, which I see a lot of people online during my research, they have issues with that. I see people complaining the game slogs its way through its 20-hour average runtime and should have ended at a certain point about the halfway mark. And I'm not sure if it's because it was on my second playthrough, but it took me under 14 hours, and I don't really have a lot of recollection of what happened. It's not like I knew where things were. I still took my time with it, and there was plenty of hiding. Yeah, I just didn't really have any issues with its pacing or length. But what I did have issues with are with one of the enemy types, and that's the Working Joes. Although they make narrative sense and do have interesting avenues in the way of the story and how that unfolds, they are just very boring when being compared to the alien sections, which thankfully do make up the majority of the game. But the androids just don't really install any of the same fearful emotions in me. They rely more on cheap jump scares, which I just loathe, instead of the well-crafted tension and suspense from the alien encounters. They feel more like your standard horror game enemy with how predictable they are, and they're just way less interesting in their gameplay. I found myself having a little too much fun when killing the androids, a complete juxtaposition to how it is when you're in the alien encounters. Boom! Boom! And they make up for about a quarter of the game, really. Dealing with these guys just isn't interesting compared to the alien. And that's really my only complaint. They are still threatening, but very killable, meaning their threat is far less. Alien Isolation has been cemented as my favourite horror game, hands down. Partially due to my love of the source material and just the franchise in general, I just love that universe. But the other aspects, like the alien's intelligence, how it adapts to the player, the masterful visual and sound design creating an overbearing sense of suspense and tension around every dark corridor. And sure, it isn't perfect, the androids are rather trivial in their threat, and I can see the arguments for the length. I think it's just maybe I just played it a little bit quicker. And I didn't die too much either, because there are sort of semi-unforgiving checkpoints dotted around there. I really do believe if you like horror games, or Alien, or just science fiction in general, you should definitely give it a go. This really is a great experience, and I'm so glad a sequel has recently been announced, as there's very few horror games I will willingly enjoy and, change my underwear for them on the regular. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This was quite an experience to make. Forcing myself to play a horror game or anything in that kind of genre is hard work for me, because I'm such a baby. But with Alien, I didn't mind too much. It was truly great. And seriously, if you haven't played it, then I cannot recommend it enough. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, that old YouTube stuff. And if you have played this game, I'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, because I know there are some people have opinions about this kind of thing, especially on the length, and I'd love to hear your mileage on that if you have played it. But yeah, thanks again, and have a happy Halloween. Cheers for now.